What's up? It's Andy Grammer with Jag.
Hi, this is Carly Rae Jepsen, and you're listening to Jag.
Hey everybody, it's Joe Jonas hanging with Jag.
This is Heather Knox with the hottest Jag I've ever seen.
Ryan Seacrest with Jag.
It's B.O.B. checking in with my homie Jag. So much swag with my homie Jag.
It's the Jag Show Podcast.
Welcome in, I am John Jag Gay. This week's podcasting tip involves prepping your show, which of course is something you should always do. I once had a boss in radio who told me that doing a radio show, or in this case a podcast, is like driving a NASCAR. You do all your work in the pit, so when the race starts, all you've got to do is drive the car. So in terms of planning out your show, a couple different ways to do it. One is to have a script and just read the script. Others prefer to have bullet points and go off of that. I know the bullet points work better for me. When I was first doing these 5-Minute Fridays, my wife pointed out, it sounds like you're reading, and it's because I was reading it off a script. So I know from my experience both on air and in podcasting that I'm better working off of bullet points and having an outline. There are some people that don't sound like they're reading when they read a script, and they'd like to have the whole thing mapped out. I actually have clients that do that. So really, my advice this week is figure out what works best for you. Is it bullet points or is it a script? But make sure you have something. On to podcasting news for the week. If you think your podcast is award-worthy, submissions are open for 2 different awards. There are the AMBIes, which are done through the Podcast Academy, that's newly formed. We've talked about that on the show before. And the Webby Awards, which award the best of the web. If you're interested in submitting for either of those, got links to both in the show notes. Google Podcast Manager is going to start showing analytics on when your podcast is showing up in Google search results. Google finally bringing their power to the podcasting side. Got a link to that story as well. If you're not familiar with She Podcasts, that is a 20,000 member community of female podcasters. It's a great organization. They've launched a virtual membership. You can find out more on the She Podcasts website. Interestingly, Amazon has bought the domain podcast.com, showing how much they want to get into the space. James Cridland from Pod News says that the asking price for the domain podcast.com might have been around $2 million for that domain. So far, if you go to podcast.com, it just sends you back to Audible, Amazon's website. Good point from Edison Research's Tom Webster. He says when you're naming your podcast, you should make a name for yourself. Literally. Don't use a common name that's going to be shared with a ton of other podcasts. If you do, somebody will have a heck of a time trying to find your podcast and could give up before they even get there. 3 other heavyweights in the podcasting business, Tanner Campbell, Evo Terra, and Steve Stewart, they have written an open letter to Apple saying that they should pull podcast reviews out of Apple Podcasts. As anybody who's been on Yelp or anything similar knows, one negative review can really, really tank you. These 3 gentlemen think it'd be better to have just a like or a heart like Instagram or Facebook, and you can see how many people have liked a podcast rather than worrying about how many stars or what the review says. And finally, Spotify is starting to play with hybrid talk and music podcasts. Not quite a radio show, but kind of in that vein. This way, artists can get royalties if their song is played or featured in the show. Now, so far, the shows are unique to Spotify. You can only get it there for obvious reasons. And there are some kinks to work out. One of the first ones is called My 90s Playlist, and it's actually produced by our record label, Sony Entertainment. The first episode breaks down TLC's classic, No Scrubs. That'll do it for the Jag Show this week. If not for the pandemic, you might find me hanging out the passenger side of my best friend's ride, trying to holla at you. Until next week, stay healthy and stay safe. Later!
Thanks for listening to the Jag Show Podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe in Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. For help with your podcast, find Jag on social media at Jag in Detroit or on the web at jagindetroit.com.